sometimes something is so clear and it's, excuse me, right in your face that you can't really see the forest for the trees. So is the case of the missing stuff in the woodshed. And in the last hour, I came across a piece of information, and like I said, this was not a big deal to me. Some of the memories, it didn't have forgotten them, it's just really important to remember. One of the things I overlooked was Amy said, excuse me, that the items in the shed were items that her grandmother had left her. And I completely forgot that statement, you know. But someone said within the last hour that apparently this stuff had been lifted and stolen in Houston, and it was items from that shed. The grandmother, see, the grandmother died, old lady, she died, and now just follow the logic here. This is all speculation, but just follow the logic. It's what I keep telling y'all. Even when you can't absolutely prove something, you follow the logical trail, and when all the pieces come together, when you rule out the impossible, what is left, no matter how improbable, is probably the truth. So, Granny dies. Somebody dies. You go to the house or the apartment or wherever, and you family gets their stuff, and they distribute it among the family, or they put it in storage or whatever. This obviously happened. Now we were dealing with an elderly lady. So I don't know what kind of housekeeper she was. Might have been good, might have been bad. But every time I ever went into a house where somebody old died, it has an old smell because everything in there is old. They've saved every newspaper they read, and the chairs that need to be upholstered again because they've been using them before, all this kind of stuff. Grandfather clocks, okay? So Amy goes to her mother, and this is speculation now. I'm not saying this is gospel truth. This is me thinking. Amy goes to her mother, and Granny has died, which is obviously mother's mother, okay? And says, some of my stuff was over at Granny's house, and I'd like to pick it up. You know? So mother goes over to the shed and, with a key and opens it up for him. And she doesn't hang around because, doesn't want to sit there and watch Amy go through the stuff. It's boring. Also, maybe it's been bad memories. It's her mother's stuff. There's the dress that she wore as a little girl that her mother had saved. You never know what was in there. So they leave, her and Mr. McDonald or whoever was with her, they leave to come back later and, when Amy's supposed to call it or whatever and seal it back up. As soon as they leave, Amy and Steve go and get themselves a U-Haul truck. And they back up the U-Haul truck to the shed and they take everything they can get on that truck out of the shed. That explains the calls that I got feverishly saying, I've got to come up there, I've got to have a place to stay, I got some stuff to store, I've got to get there, I got to get there now. Now we're only about 4 hours from Houston, where I'm at. They arrived at 5 o'clock in the morning. What does that tell us? They left at about midnight, 1 o'clock. Okay? They say they stopped to take a piss. Okay? Midnight. So they left at midnight. And they get up here at 5, and as I've said before, I didn't look at the stuff. Now, that gives another possibility that when I saw what the three men were bringing out of the shed and putting on the curb, even I was like, this is the big deal? This is a bunch of junk, garbage. It's the big deal that she's raised all this hell all these years over this? No. What went on the curb was the unpawnable stuff. An old style television, old clothes, shoes, a beat-up file cabinet. I can't remember what little trash was there, mainly just garbage, okay? And so anyway, I made the video, and as you notice in the video, I did not touch the stuff. I made the video, and I put it up, and it stayed up for a year or so before I got involved with this current movement, and I popped the video over there and said, here's the stuff, and Amy finally got to see the stuff, right? Well, the truth was out. Now, when they were here, they made the rounds between around Austin, Round Rock, Georgetown, all the way up to Belton, Temple, Waco, hitting the pawn shops. She had me take her to several pawn shops here. She had some, I did see an item, I do remember, but she brought it into this house. some silver. Now, Killeen it's got some pawn shops. We're next to Army base. They took one look at that stuff and said, "This is plate. It's not good. The whole box will be nice to you, lady, and we'll give you $25." Okay, that's how worthless it was. Now, I have pawned items in the past at this one pawn shop called Action Pawn. They give top dollar. I pawned a diamond ring one time for my ex-wife. She wanted me to over and pawn it, and they gave me $300. They wanted to give me $6. You know, so they're good. But they were going to give her $25 to get her out the front door for all of her precious silver. Okay. Well, anyway, when Sonny took him over there, now I'd had Sonny, his habits all figured out. Like, for instance, when he would do the kitchen and put stuff up, I never had to ask him where he put it because he was so organized. He was also a very responsible man. Now, he knew that neither he nor I owned this stuff, that it was their property. So he got a lock to put on the door. He had a lock, and usually the lock comes with 2 keys. Naturally, Sonny kept the key for himself, so we'd have a way to get into our shop. And in all probability, he gave the other key to Steve. That would be the only logical thing to do. Here's a key. When you come back and you get your stuff, here's your key. Okay, so this 2 possibilities happen here, or a blend of both. While Amy and Steve were here, they did indeed go by there, and they did indeed pawn many of those items. Okay, many. I didn't look the first time, and the second time I didn't know what went in there, what came out. None of that. Okay, but they did indeed. And what do you do when you rob somebody? When you burglarize a house? You know, y'all haven't not committed any burglaries. I haven't either, but I know some burglars. My son's one. He did 7 years for it. The first thing you do is you get it to a safe place or shed or whatever you control, and you lock it up till you can fence it. And that's what she did. She put all the stuff in my shed, and she locked it up, and then they began fencing the stuff at the pawn shops. Now, you'll never see my name on any of those pawn tickets because I didn't do it. Okay, that's the truth. Now, Amy hijacks back to Houston, and now Amy isn't the brightest crayon in the box, okay? But Steve, he's kind of bright red. It's only 4 hours from Houston to here, okay? If there were indeed items that could be pawned left in that shed at that point, it wouldn't be beyond the scale for Steve to swing by and pick a few things up. I mean, we weren't living in the house, and all you do is walk through the fence and open the shed door. Also, it is a documented fact that Amy was traveling up and down to Michigan, went out to California, which means that to go to California, she's got to come right near here. We're off the Interstate 35 corridor. To go to Michigan, she has to come within 8 miles of this house. 8 miles over on the Interstate 35 corridor going up straight up to Dallas. Okay, to get to Michigan, she has to take Interstate 35 or go through Highway 59 and all that crap, you know. So anyway, let's just say she was in the area, and not just Steve, but she and Steve finished fencing that stuff off. Okay, this is all speculation. What we do know is I didn't know what went into the shed. I only saw what came out of the shed, and it was not very valuable stuff. That's why I was laughing about it. Now, there might have been, she said there was a grandfather clock. I never saw a grandfather clock come out of the shed. Sonny saw the grandfather clock and told me that it was grandmother's clock. Grandmother's clock, grandmother died, there it goes. But he, for a lot of his life, he was in the appliance repair business, and he said it was a Walmart clock. Okay, so Sonny said it was a Walmart clock, it was a Walmart clock. But anyway, that is probably what, and all speculation now. Like I said, when y'all pass this over to her, she's going to start screaming, I'm a liar, and all this kind of stuff. I didn't say these things absolutely happen in this sequence, but I showed you. Here's where I know they came from. The grandmother's shed after she died. Here's where I know they ended up, over in a shed on the other side of town. Here's where I know that some of the items that were offloaded did not come out that day. I sat on the porch watching those men take it to the curb. Those are items we know. And anyway, Jackie, why don't you show me what happens to people who tell lies?
I'm going to take a guess on how many times you're going to get shot going in. 1, You can't touch this. You can't touch this.